Hello, hello. Welcome in to the future of ConnectWise Automate and ConnectWise RMM, a webinar hosted by ProVal Technologies. My name's Alec Herman. I'm the Partner Development Associate at ProVal Tech, and I just want to say thank you for everyone who took the time out of their day to join us. It's an absolute pleasure having you, and I think we have a really good topic here to discuss today. With me, I have the pleasure of welcoming Alex Ramsbey. He's a ConnectWise Automate expert. And Alex, thanks so much for hopping on with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Alec. I mean, as well as I can be. I just got a tooth pulled, so if I sound unclear, please type it in the chat, ask me question answers, but otherwise excited to be here and discuss these RMM tools.
Well, good. We hope it's as painless as it possibly can be. Yeah, perfect. We've been getting a lot of questions about the new RMM that ConnectWise has released and really what the current state of ConnectWise Automate is. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, we can help you make a better decision on which RMM is best for you and your business. Before we get started here, Alex, do you mind providing just a brief intro about yourself for everyone who's not familiar with who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my IT career after leaving the Army in a program that Microsoft puts on for transitioning veterans. It's called the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, or MSSA for short. I've got a LinkedIn group. Get with me after if you'd like to hop in and see what that's all about. But basically, they gave me the chance to spend about 6 months going from zero to hero in IT, specifically for server management. Right after that, I then got a job working at an MSP that was using the ConnectWise suite. And I don't know about you guys, but I had to spend hundreds of hours to learn Automate, and hopefully, or might be in the same boat that most of you are in now, or have been at one point or another. I worked really closely with the CEO at my previous MSP, learning all I really could about owning and running an MSP business. I was able to take that knowledge, put it to work, and we went from 800K annual revenue just that first year to 1.1 after the first year, and everything kind of tallied up. I moved on from that MSP into ProVal's team to apply that same knowledge to help consistently scale multiple MSPs instead of just the one that I was working at. I've only improved my knowledge in Automate specifically, and have had a fantastic team here to craft up some of my crazy ideas.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, no, thank you for that introduction, Alex. And I know we're excited to get going here, but right before we get started, who are we and why should you listen to us? So we both work for a company called ProVal Technologies that's really spent the last 13 years managing and optimizing back-end tools for managed service providers. More specifically, we provide services to MSPs around RMM tools, backups, 24/7 monitoring of critical devices. And to do this, we heavily leverage integrations, automation, and development to really get the most out of those solutions. After this webinar, I will send out my contact information, so please feel free to shoot me a message or give me a call if you're interested in discussing whether our services would be the right fit for you. Lastly, there will be a Q&A section at the end of this webinar. We'll talk for approximately 25 minutes, so hopefully it can give you some time back in your day. But when you have a question, please feel free to just throw it in the chat, and we'll be sure to address it at the end. Well, now that I've rambled on long enough, I'll kick this off with the obvious question. Alex, is ConnectWise Automate going away?
Glad you asked, Alec. I feel like this is on everybody's mind. Automate is not going away. Realistically speaking, Automate's advantage was being able to meet specific criteria that just other RMMs couldn't guarantee. More specifically, compliance with regulations around access and store data information. This is being addressed with the new development of ConnectWise RMM and will likely fit all regulatory requirements for most MSPs. However, if there's a regulation that a cloud instance of ConnectWise RMM can't meet, then Automate will still be the de facto solution. It's too early to say this confidently, but with the uncertainty of the future of data and privacy laws that will be passed, ConnectWise RMM may not be able to accommodate all of them, and Automate will just be the solution required in that stance.
No, that's good to hear. I know you mentioned an advantage of Automate there, but can you talk to me about some other advantages of ConnectWise Automate?
Yeah, so Automate has been a fantastic tool since its creation way back in 2005. Basically, the dream of having an RMM tool that was completely open, flexible, gave everybody a new platform to develop their own solutions on. This really opened the gates to innovative integrations and custom management tools or solutions. One of the biggest advantages of Automate is the ability and option to self host your own server anywhere. You could buy the license, buy the licenses, and buy the server license, and then you get full backend access to almost anything inside the database and the software. You can connect to this database, manipulate the data, augment some of the core functions of Automate. How amazing is that? Self-hosted instances are great for flexibility, but have the overhead of managing almost every aspect of the entire platform, the server and the software. Many clients go SaaS or software as a service with this solution that they have for ConnectWise, and then the management is on ConnectWise's hands. They manage all of the software and patches and updates for you. On another note, Automate really is just an entire framework on its own that is there to be customized to fit your needs. A benefit of this is the ability to automate, pun intended, almost anything. Combining EDFs, scripts, monitors, searches, and groups, you can set up automation that most platforms aren't able to be customized to this extent.
No, that's a great analysis. Thank you, Alex. And just a slight tangent here, but nevertheless, I think it's very important to touch on. You mentioned the ability to self-host your own server with Automate. Assuming I'm a first-time buyer of an RMM solution, how would I evaluate to know, which decision is right for me?
Well, I would first ask you, are you planning to hire someone to fully manage the server and software? If yes, then you're going to have the most functionality of Automate's environment, and that person will be in charge of all security. And I can't stress this enough, this person will be in charge of the security of the Automate system. If you're not going to have somebody in this role, I would just highly recommend sticking with a SaaS solution, and ConnectWise can manage it all for you in the backend.
Great. And just assuming, I'm still that first-time MSP owner, I don't have anyone to manage my security, so I'm going to host this with ConnectWise. Am I going to lose any functionality in Automate because I chose to have ConnectWise host my instance instead of hosting that one myself on premise?
Yeah, and that's a great question. All of the core functions of Automate are there. You're not going to be missing anything that a lot of on-prem is going to provide differently. However, some integrations are API based only. For example, BrightGauge. So with BrightGauge, you have to create a user if you're hosted, and then that user has to be able to see certain tables in the database. The default functionality of BrightGauge doesn't allow you to create some custom data sources in a SaaS environment that we would be able to in a self-hosted instance. A lot of that is integral in creating custom reporting that may be a better fit for you and your clients and how they see the data.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Alex. And just out of curiosity, were you in charge of your server and its security at your last role? And how much time did it take you?
Well, I was, and it was basically a full-time job. And like most people in this position at MSPs, I got pulled in so many different directions. I just really wasn't able to spend enough time on the server to keep it updated and patched and make sure all the holes were patched.
Very interesting. Very interesting. No, I appreciate that insight. And so I think we spent enough time now talking about how much time Automate takes away. I know the tool can save businesses a ton of time as well. Can you provide an example of some automation that we've created and run in Automate that would be difficult to replicate in the new ConnectWise RMM tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So just this month, actually, developed last month, but kind of put into production this month was our BitLocker management solution. While this is just one solution, this process can really be created for anything and replicated across the entirety of Automate. But within inside of the solution, we included scripts that allowed you to turn on and off encryption for specific drives, we have a couple of options in terms of how you want that security access to be enabled, either user password or auto-generated keys. And then lastly, we pull that information back into Automate and or both Active Directory. And then we built a custom table alongside of that to track multiple drives in a custom table built specifically for the solution.
Fantastic. And so is it possible to replicate this in the new RMM that ConnectWise just released?
Not entirely fully. So we have the PowerShell scripts to enable and disable the BitLocker, but a lot of that reporting and a lot of the customization just isn't quite there yet.
Got it. Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now I know, we've talked a lot about Automate, but I also know we've spent a good bit of time over the course of the last few months here, really evaluating the new ConnectWise RMM in depth, and that they released last November. Can you talk about some other capabilities that tool has?
Yeah, so one of the biggest strengths that Automate has of being self-hosted is also the biggest vulnerability of Automate, having to keep everything patched and closed at all times. ConnectWise RMM is a cloud-based only solution, so all of that shift is off of you as the MSP and onto ConnectWise. Another benefit is going to be patch management. So with ConnectWise RMM, the patch management solution is vastly improved and now scalable while still be customizable to a client level. It fixes a huge disadvantage of Automate's patch management, being able to completely set up a client-based patching policy and stage delay at each client. This has been a topic of many discussions I've personally had with clients over setting up a stage delay for patch deployment. And honestly, even smaller MSPs should set up some sort of patching delay with automatic patch approvals just to keep things more up to date and rolling along. With ConnectWise RMM, we have the ability to set up a simple global policy and then only adjust the clients we really need to at the client level. This is going to be huge for enterprise clients who need to change request setup and documented patches before they get rolled out. Another massive advantage is the fact that ConnectWise RMM is going to be seemingly infinite scalable. Some of you out there may have over 10,000 agents and need something that can continue to scale out with you. ConnectWise RMM is going to be lighter in weight, or I should say it is lighter in weight, and allows for nearly infinite scalability with seemingly no drop in performance. I say seemingly, but I've never noticed anything, so take that with a grain of salt. This increase in performance can be felt no matter your MSP size, and all MSPs will feel the solution is more responsive than Automate. Lastly, the biggest one I want to talk about is just really scripting. So Automate has a super solid scripting engine. And from what it sounds like, ConnectWise RMM will have that same power, along with being able to execute the scripts at the endpoints quickly. This is going to scale really well with software deployments and PowerShell and Bash scripts.
Oh, that's some really great insight. I know you mentioned a few things that the new ConnectWise RMM does differently than Automate. Are there any others that you've noticed in going through it?
Yeah, so Automate is almost too open of a framework, and just the ability to turnkey, as they say in our industry, just isn't valid with the newer standards that MSPs are looking for. When I say turnkey, I mean the ability to buy the solution and be ready to use right out of the box. Just due to ConnectWise RMM's modern build and interface, many MSPs will find the solution easier to manage internally without a ton of overhead. One of the benefits, and I guess one of the bigger benefits, is that ConnectWise is 100% API focused. This is going to be advantageous long term because it means that there are more integration power with web apps and other webhooks that could be possible. This is really going to be game changing for things like Microsoft Office and Azure AD integrations, hooking into that environment/tenant, and be able to pull data into a database. And I can't stop here. The new database also links up with ConnectWise Managed to be a singular database. This means that your managed instance will be looking at the same element as your RMM tool. Really, the TLDR, or too long didn't read, of this is that your manage will have a better way to track Office users, licenses, workstations, and all of that. There's no more syncing. It's just the same database, the same element that both tools are looking at. The Automates API just really isn't as great as if it could have been built by ConnectWise from the start. And then I'll start with you got to hit it with the downside. So the biggest downside, and currently I don't see this being a long-term issue, is just the lack of back-end automation in ConnectWise RMM. When comparing it to Automate, we can link several pieces of identification together to fully build and close the loop on an automated system, or even for deployments. But as of today, that just quite isn't available through ConnectWise RMM. The pieces and parts are visible, but to link them together to close the loop just are not possible yet.
Wow. Yeah, both of these tools seem pretty fantastic. Hypothetically speaking, as a new MSP owner, I would have a really difficult time deciding, which solution's the right one for me. Is there any last piece of advice that you could share that may make my decision easier?
Yeah, I always start with this question here, and this is probably the biggest one to answer: is how are you, or how do you want to be servicing your clients right now? Let me add a couple bullets to that. When I say service, are your techs screen connecting or using automation to provide the solution? We understand that MSPs conduct businesses differently, and if the face-to-face time is more important and really only basic automation is needed, then ConnectWise RMM is the right tool for you. But if you service your clients through automation and it's heavily back-ended, you want to stick with Automate for now. So ultimately, I guess the question is, what do you want out of an RMM? Do you want a cutting-edge tool that's constantly innovating and scalable? Or would you rather go with a long-standing platform that's very mature in its development, focused mainly on security updates and less new features? Of course, I would say it's best to first get with your ConnectWise account manager, grab a demo of the license, see what the new platform's all about, and deploy it all internally just at your MSP. However, please make sure that you have time to actually demo during this time frame. I know we all get busy. We all want to test out the new fancy shiny thing, but it doesn't do you any good if you book out that time and then you get caught up in a project or something like that. I would also recommend that for MSPs that need a more stable solution without anything super customized or built just yet, if that sounds like you, just go for ConnectWise RMM first. It will likely be a good fit. After you get a chance to test it out and start there, make sure you do submit your feedback and questions to ConnectWise. They are still developing the solution, so they are analyzing a lot of feedback. And then for any MSP who's been around for quite some time, you may already have a very customized setup that you built tons of automation around. Just stick with that for now and keep an eye on the updates upcoming.
No, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing and joining me today, Alex. I always appreciate our conversations. With that, I'm going to turn to the audience for any questions. I know we had some come in here. Give me 1 second. All right, I know Mike just put in here, what concerns do you have about ConnectWise Automate starting to become less and less developed as they focus on ConnectWise RMM more?
Probably my biggest concern is just the speed at which updates come out. And I know if you've checked out the virtual community that ConnectWise had recently launched, they switched from a more patch-based promises or features in Automate to a more quarterly based response. To me, that's honestly a lot better. I feel better about being promised something over the quarter and being able to stay focused on more security, because there are a lot of bugs and security flaws within Automate that they are constantly troubleshooting and patching as the new patches come up.
Awesome. Next question I do have here, and just a clarifying one. Did you just say ConnectWise RMM's patching is better than ConnectWise Automate?
Yes. So ConnectWise RMM will have or will soon have the ability to integrate with feature builds. That is their current plan. Automate just can't click the button that says download and install as we've seen it on the endpoints there. So hopefully soon with the new ConnectWise RMM, as it is today, it's not currently there. The patch manager and what I had talked about earlier about being able to do that per client, that feature is there as of today.
Awesome, awesome. And then the next question here is, how is Mac and Linux being done? I'm assuming we've been monitored inside of the ConnectWise RMM.
So with the new tool and the fact that they've basically rebuilt the agent, it's very similar to Automate, where it's just kind of doing a file scan and looking at the open files. So like fsutil, I think the other one is ls-sh. I believe those are the two commands that are running. Basically, the way Linux is built, for anybody who doesn't know here, anything that's run, there's not really a registry. It's all config files. And then programs are run files. And so with Automate and the way that the RMM tools scan is they basically look at what's running and then can differ between the two config files versus the actual process running.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that, Alex. Next question we have here is, can ConnectWise RMM handle previous month's cumulative updates after they've been superseded?
I'll take a best guess on that one. It is likely not, just because of the way that the patches are built. It doesn't seem like ConnectWise RMM takes the patch and stores the historical data, something like that would need a previous cumulative update patch number. And instead, it's actually just pulling directly from Microsoft catalog, and whatever the current one is, that's going to be what the, I guess, pending update would be on the endpoint.
Thank you for that, Alex. The next question we have here, is there a native method for third-party patching or software deployment, or would it require the same level of script development as Automate?
At this very time, so there is a ton of pre-built scripts inside of ConnectWise RMM. If you've seen Continuum or have demoed that in the past, it's very similar to a lot of the scripts that used to be in Automate that have moved to Continuum, and they all kind of have like things like Adobe and DC Reader, things like that. They are script based, but they do have a lot of that custom functionality. And I know that the way that ConnectWise is building it, they're trying to build modules. So they haven't announced anything that I've heard of that makes me think a third-party patching module. But if it's not in the scripts currently, that might be an upcoming thing that they may announce soon.
Fantastic. And then what does ConnectWise RMM uses control for remote, correct, Alex?
That is 100% correct.
Fantastic. Our next question, kind of general, but how's the scripting?
So honestly, I really like the scripting. They did get away from the puzzle pieces that ConnectWise, or I'm sorry, Continuum used to have, and it's a little more maybe adult friendly, if that's the word. But they did allow you to do an if then else at any point in your script. So whereas the limitations of Automate, you had to build the script and do subscripts, you could build that all one massive parent script that would hold all of your subscripts inside of itself. So that's going to be a huge benefit to a lot of the more complicated or complex scripts out there.
Fantastic. Another question here. Can Automate scripts be directly imported from Automate to ConnectWise RMM?
No. So that is one big disadvantage of moving, is that there is a lot of overhead to get everything moved over to the new platform.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, Another question, when is ConnectWise RMM going to have all these features implemented that you've been referencing?
So what I referenced today, I would estimate they want it to be done by quarter 1 as of this year. And so that's where a lot of their development power went. So if we don't hear a lot of kind of new and upcoming announcements by the end of March, probably April, my hope is by July, but honestly, I would put it towards quarter 3, end of this year, before a lot of the heavy lifting features come into ConnectWise RMM, and it feels like something that is um, more used for the average MSP.
Gotcha. Thanks for that insight, Alex. Another question I have here, what do you think is the best feature in the new ConnectWise RMM?
Ooh, the best feature. Let me take 10 seconds here and think about that.
Perfect.
If I had to say the best feature, it would probably just be the backend API ground up framework. And that's probably hard to say or hard to see. But if I was writing a custom integration, or if I was a brand new software company that something like a project management tool like Jira or like ClickUp is out there, I could write an integration that as tickets came up, it could have been applied to somebody, or I could have some integration pull of metrics. A lot of that stuff would give you API access to the database. So I'm really trying to, yeah, I don't like using that phrase because I know it's actually been overused, but I'm really excited for the fact that we can pull almost anything via API in the future.
Yeah, no, that's definitely exciting. Another question we have here, can scripts be exported to be shared with other partners and imported into a new ConnectWise RMM instance?
That is the plan to my knowledge, but I don't know and I cannot confirm as of today.
Another question here is, and just a general kind of more basic question, is ConnectWise RMM in actual production or just testing?
So it's kind of in a live closed beta. A lot of basically the way that ConnectWise is doing it is they're starting to do it in rollouts or waves. So you may be contacted by your account manager and they say, hey, I've got a cool thing you should try. They're kind of slowly bringing people in to switch if they want to. You can always reach out to your account manager and start to have the conversation of switching or have that opt in. But in terms of being actual production or is it testing, it is in fact in production, but a lot of the features just aren't quite there to the speed that you may need. And so that's why we've kind of been referencing it as kind of a live beta, or just some of the features are, hey, wait for some of the updates coming the rest of this year.
Perfect, perfect. Another question here. Will the Continuum product be fully phased out in favor of ConnectWise RMM?
So I can't say confidently just because I'm not ConnectWise, but based on what I'm gathering from what they're saying, yes, the Continuum brand will slowly fade away. What they're trying to do is turn that into the NOC service levels. And they're actually saying that ConnectWise RMM will be the new platform. And then if you want the extra benefit of all of the NOC services, that's kind of the Continuum purchase beyond that.
Fantastic. ConnectWise RMM allowing access to help desk and NOC services is also a huge opportunity depending on your business. Oh, that is not a question, but a great statement.
That's a great point. I personally, so a little bit of background on that. Before I left my MSP and I knew that I was leaving out of their company, I had got everybody to agree to move over to Continuum just for that fact that they didn't have anybody else to replace me, but I knew that Continuum could give them that I don't want to use that word turnkey again, give them that ability to manage it easier internally. And they were able to pay just a little bit extra, less than it would be for a person, to have a lot of that first alert and first remediation be resolved by the knock. And it actually worked out really well. I was very impressed.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, it looks like that's all the questions we have. So thank you so much for everybody. Oh, just kidding. I think we have one more here. If you're an established MSP currently using Automate with a client target market of small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses moving to Office 365, Azure, Cloud, would you recommend looking at ConnectWise RMM this year or wait and listen?
Honestly, if it was me, I'm a little more aggressive at looking at new things. I like the shiny tool. So I would definitely keep an eye out just because of the fact that it will be so open. Last year, November, they did announce that they are working with Microsoft, getting Intune integrations and things like that. But with that being said, a lot of the core functionality of the automation just isn't there yet today. So I would look maybe later this year or kind of push it off until next year to see where everything's at.
All right, and then we have a real serious question as our next one. Can you use the term ground up framework with a straight face?
As we build this from the ground up.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Try not to smile about that one.
No, I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, that is all the questions that we've gotten. So thank you so much for everybody who's reached out and asked them. And that really wraps it up for us today. We will be posting this webinar to our YouTube channel. So anyone who's missed it or didn't get the chance to watch it, it will be up for you to be able to rewatch it. It'll also be on our social media channels. So please follow us on social media and like it if you have an opportunity to. I'll also send everyone here an email with my contact information. So please feel free to reach out, schedule some time with me if you're just interested in discussing how we can help or just anything about this webinar in general. Thanks again for joining us today, and I hope everyone stays safe out there and has a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.